This is Gentle Confessions, where we whisper the truths we never said. Until now. Tier 1. The Missed Candle. I never meant to forget. It started with 1 year. 1 missed phone call. 1 unchecked calendar notification. 1 quiet dinner where I told myself I'd make it up to him next time. But next time has a strange way of turning into years. 7 of them, to be exact. 7 missed candles. 7 moments I should have shown up for, but didn't. My brother's birthday falls in late October, always on a rainy week, always too close to some deadline, or some crisis, or some excuse that sounded more important than it actually was. And every time, I told myself he wouldn't notice, that he probably didn't care, that we weren't the kind of siblings who needed to say happy birthday to feel close. But maybe we weren't close because I never said it. I remember the first year I missed it, 2013. He had just moved to Vancouver. I was still in Toronto, buried in work, relationships, and my own problems. I meant to call. I really did. I even bought a card, one of those funny ones with a joke only he would get. I tucked it into the drawer next to my desk, planning to write something heartfelt. It's still there. Unwritten. Unsent. 10 years old. That first year passed, and I told myself he'd understand. Then the second year came, and I missed it again. No call. No message. Just silence. I convinced myself it wasn't a big deal. He probably celebrated with friends. Maybe our family was never the birthday type anyway. But birthdays are never about the cake. They're about remembering. And I didn't. I started to dread late October. Not because I forgot, but because I remembered too late. Always a day or two after. Each time, I'd stare at my phone screen, finger hovering over the call button, then letting it fall back into my lap, as if guilt had weight. I told myself I'd call next year, that I'd write him a long message, maybe even visit. I never did. One time, I think it was year 4, he texted me first. A photo of a cupcake, a candle already blown out. Guess who's another year older? He wrote. I stared at that message for hours. Typed out happy birthday. I'm so sorry I forgot. Then deleted it. I replied with a joke instead. He laughed. Sent back a thumbs up. I told myself that meant it was okay. But it wasn't. Because what I didn't say was everything. Year 5. Year 6, they blended together. I started forgetting more than just his birthday. I forgot how old he was. What his voice sounded like when he laughed. How he used to always flick the light switch twice before leaving a room, some weird habit he never explained. I forgot what kind of cake he liked. Or whether he still played the guitar. Or if he was still in Vancouver, or had moved somewhere else by then. But mostly, I forgot how to be his sibling. We weren't fighting. There was no dramatic falling out. Just a quiet drift, the kind that happens when birthdays become just another day, and silence becomes easier than explanation. And the cruelest part, he never called me out. Never said, "Why don't you remember?" Never made me feel bad. Which somehow made it worse, because it meant he noticed, but chose kindness instead. It's funny how guilt can age inside you. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand. It just sits there. Heavy. Patient. Waiting to be noticed. Now, when I see families post birthday dinners or surprise parties, I don't think about the balloons. I think about the years I let disappear. About the cake that was never shared. About the candle that was lit and blown out without me. Do you ever wonder how many small things you forgot before they became the big things? Tier 2. The candle I never lit. There's this drawer in my apartment. Top right corner of my desk. Second handle. Slightly stiff when you pull it. It holds receipts I'll never claim. Cables I'll never use. And one birthday card I never sent. The envelope is still sealed, the glue probably stale by now. The front has a cartoon bear holding a balloon. Inside. I know there's a joke about his terrible taste in music. Something only we found funny. But I never signed my name. I couldn't. Because each year that passed without a call, without a message, made signing it feel like a lie. Like I was pretending I hadn't forgotten him. For so long. And yet, I never threw it away. I couldn't bring myself to. It's strange, isn't it? How guilt can feel sacred. Like a bruise you refuse to touch, not because it hurts, but because it reminds you that you once felt something deeply. Some nights, I'd open that drawer just to see the card. Not to send it. Just to remind myself that I had tried. Once. It became a quiet ritual. October would come. Rain on the windows. Leaves on the balcony. And me. Sitting on the edge of my bed. Holding a card I never mailed. I imagined what I'd say if I did. Hey. Happy birthday. I'm sorry I missed it again. I keep meaning to call. But every time I try, the silence between us feels louder than it should. I hope you're okay. I hope someone made you laugh today. I hope you haven't given up on me. But I never sent that message. Not once. Because the truth is, I didn't know if I deserved to say it. I wasn't just forgetting a birthday. I was forgetting the kind of sibling I used to be. The kind who made mixtapes for long drives. The kind who stayed up past midnight to decorate cheap store-bought cakes with too much icing. The kind who remembered. But memory has a funny way of fading when you're busy trying to survive. There was a time I blamed work. Deadlines. Breakups. Mental health. The usual suspects. But after year 5, it wasn't about the excuse anymore. It was about the pattern. You see, once you skip enough birthdays, it stops being an accident. It becomes who you are. And that terrified me. Not because I didn't want to change, but because I wasn't sure he wanted me to anymore. I started noticing things I'd forgotten he taught me. Like how to draw faces with just 5 strokes. Or how he used to press 2 fingers to his temple when thinking as if the idea needed help finding its way out. Or how he once told me when I was 13 and thought I had no friends that people only drift apart when one of them lets go. I wonder now, who let go first? Was it me, in Toronto, hiding behind missed calls and unmailed cards? Or was it him, in Vancouver, holding out for a message that never came? Maybe both. Maybe neither. Maybe it doesn't matter anymore. but I still remember the night I almost called. It was his 30th. A big milestone. One of those birthdays where people gather and say things like, "Here's to a new decade." I had even bought a gift, a first edition copy of his favorite graphic novel. I wrapped it, taped the corners perfectly, wrote his name on the tag, and sat there, holding the box, phone in the other hand. 10 minutes. 20. An hour. No call. I placed the gift on my shelf. It's still there. Unopened. Untouched. Waiting. Just like the card. Just like him. Maybe. Some candles don't get lit. Not because there's no match, but because we're too afraid of what we'll see in the light. Tier 3. The call I never made. I always thought making the call would be the hard part. But it turns out, the hardest part is deciding what to say once someone answers. I used to rehearse the conversation in my head during long walks, headphones in, pretending the trees were listening. "Hey, it's me. I know it's been a while." Too vague. "I'm sorry I haven't called on your birthday in a while." Too specific. "Can we start over?" Too late. So, I stayed silent. But silence has sharp edges. It doesn't just linger. It presses. Especially around October. That year, I think it was the 7th one I almost called again. This time, I had no excuses left. Work was stable. My mind was clearer. I'd just gone through therapy and even talked about him in a session the way I used to laugh more when he was around. How I envied his quiet confidence. How I feared that if I reached out now, I'd only be met with a cold politeness. But my therapist said something that stuck. Guilt is your heart asking for another chance. I held on to that sentence like a life raft. The night before his birthday, I sat in the kitchen. Lights dimmed. Tea untouched. Phone screen glowing like a tiny spotlight in the dark. His number was still saved. Of course it was. I could never bring myself to delete it. My thumb hovered over the call icon. My heart beat like it knew I wasn't ready. I told myself, just press it. Say something. Anything. So I did. The call rang once. Twice. Then I ended it. I panicked. I turned my phone off and placed it under a pillow, like it was something dangerous. But in that moment, in that almost call, I realized something I hadn't been avoiding him. I'd been avoiding the version of me he remembered, because that version was better. She remembered birthdays. She made playlists. She stayed up late to help him rewrite essays. She told him when she was proud. I wasn't sure that version of me still existed, so I stayed quiet. And yet, the guilt didn't leave. It never does. It just changes shape. It starts as a whisper. You forgot. Then it becomes a hum. You always forget. And then, a chant. You're not who he needs you to be. I tried to drown it out. I sent him a package that year. No card, no return address, just the graphic novel. I tracked the delivery online. It arrived on time. No message. No thank you. No call. And I didn't expect one. Because when you disappear from someone's life, Even the smallest gestures start to feel suspicious. Was it guilt? Was it pity? Was it too little? Too late? Maybe he opened it and smiled. Maybe he didn't recognize the handwriting. Or maybe he knew exactly who it was from and chose silence, too. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had stayed on that call. If I had waited long enough to hear the click and his voice on the other side. Would he have been surprised? Relieved, angry? Would he have laughed? I'll never know. Because that call, like the birthday card, like the gift, like the years, remained unfinished. The words we never say echo the loudest, especially when the line goes dead before they're heard. Tier 4. The birthday I remembered too late. It was raining the day I finally remembered on time. Not just remembered, felt it. The weight of the day. The way it used to smell like cake batter and aftershave. The way he'd run down the stairs. 2 steps at a time. Because birthdays always made him a little kid again. That year, it hit me early. Maybe because I'd been sleeping better. Maybe because my dreams were quieter. Or maybe because I had run out of things to use as a shield. I woke up and knew today's the day. It wasn't guilt this time. It was something softer, like a tug at the sleeve of my memory. I made tea his favorite kind, honey lavender, and sat by the window. Didn't check my phone. Didn't open my laptop. Just sat. There was something strange about the way the clouds hung that morning. Heavy, but still. Like they, too, were waiting for something. And then, out of nowhere, a memory came rushing in. The 8th birthday. He got a bike that year. Blue with silver handles. He rode it until his legs hurt, and then made me decorate the spokes with ribbons so it looked faster. He crashed into the mailbox that same afternoon, scraped his knee. I ran inside and got a Band-Aid with cartoon ducks on it. We laughed until he cried. Or maybe it was the other way around. That's what this day used to be. Laughter. Mess. Bandages. Forgiveness. And now silence. But for once, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like space. Like something was making room inside me for the memory to live again. I stood up and walked to the drawer. Yes, that drawer. Top right corner. Second handle. The card was still there. Untouched. But this time, I didn't open it. Didn't read the joke. Didn't imagine signing my name. I just held it. And whispered. I remember. I didn't mean it as a prayer. But maybe it was. Not for redemption. Not for closure. Just for connection. For a tiny thread to stitch between 2 people who once shared a room. A childhood. A birthday cake. The kind of thread you can't see, only feel. I sat with that feeling until the tea went cold. Then I got up, walked to the bookshelf, and took down the gift I never gave. The graphic novel. I unwrapped it. Opened the first page. There was a quote there I had forgotten. Some heroes don't wear capes. Some just show up when it's hardest. I closed the book. It was late afternoon now. The kind of golden quiet that fills the room when the day is almost done, but hasn't said goodbye yet. I took out my phone, opened our last message thread, a blank screen. Nothing since 2013. I didn't type anything, just stared at the blinking cursor, felt it, owned it. I let it remind me that the time we waste in fear doesn't come back. I locked the phone and placed it face down. And for the first time, I didn't feel like a villain in my own story. I felt human, imperfect, late, but still here, still capable of remembering, of showing up, even if no one was waiting. Some birthdays aren't about candles. They're about quiet truths, finally being whispered out loud. Tier 5, the message I'll send. Someday. There are some messages that live only in drafts. They don't expire. They don't vanish. They just wait. And I think maybe that's where mine belongs right now. Still unwritten, but alive. I imagine it sometimes. The way my fingers might hover over the screen, not shaking this time. Not because I'm unsure, but because I know. Once it's sent, there's no going back. Not to the old silence. Not to the comfort of forgetting. It would probably start simply, "Hey, I remembered this year." And then maybe I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted you to know I'm still here. Not much more, because healing rarely comes in paragraphs. Sometimes it comes in pause, in breath, in small words, finally said after years of being buried under bigger ones. I wonder what he would do if he saw it. Would he smile? For a second, without meaning to? Would he reread it a few times? Then put the phone down, unsure how to answer? Or would he reply at all? Maybe not. Maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is that I send it anyway. Not today, but someday. On a quiet morning, with fog outside the window and a mug of lavender tea in my hand. When I'm not haunted by who I used to be, but comforted by who I've become. Someone who remembers. Someone who forgives. Someone who's ready to stop whispering to herself and finally whisper to him. The most honest messages don't need an audience. They just need courage. And until that day comes, I carry him here not in guilt, but in memory. Not in silence, but in every word I've finally let myself say. Out loud. To you. To the dark. To the stars still listening. This was my gentle confession. Thank you for being the one to hear it. Sleep well, and maybe remember someone you love before it's too late.